but he's got no pre-existing conditions.
Right.
Neighbor of ours, backyard neighbor, he ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks with it. So it
It's
seems
hit
to
or miss.
be, yeah.
Hit or miss with people. Hey, if you got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks is what we're doing tonight. It's Thursday night. I have to think about that. I've done a bunch of podcasts already this week. Thursday night, August 13th, 2020. If you got this any other time than 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, you've got the recorded version, and that's okay. Just hang tight. We'll get started in just a minute. We are talking about a bunch of free. Are they all free, Kevin?
They are all free.
Everything we're talking about. Free. Sunday. Free utilities, applications, tools, all kinds of stuff that hey, it's that going to be that kind of show tonight. Hopefully I use some of them. I'll learn some new things tonight. And so Kevin has been kind enough to jump in here and provide us a pretty good list. If you're joining us for the very first time, welcome. Check in the chat room. I see Jim Schoonover, Andrew Ball, Justin Simmons, Tony Rayner. Ken's out there. Good to see you, Ken. Joe, good to see you. So you check in the chat room. Let us know what's going on there. And we got I think a fun 90 minutes ahead, and you might want to follow along. I've always had this dream, Kevin, of having open show notes. Like Paul did this the other night when he was on a couple weeks ago, where he published the show notes in advance on his website, which I thought was freaking brilliant. In advance. Let's see, how could I do that here really quick? I guess I could share this Google Doc to everybody. Oh, let me just do that. I'm going to share the Google Doc. It will be edit only, so you guys will not be able to. Editors can change permissions. Okay, let's go back here. Get a link. Restricted. Only people can open. Copy link. Get link. Let's see. Restricted. Only people added can open with this link. Oh, let's change this. You see, that's you. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm obviously struggling. Get link, copy link. Actually, I don't care if you guys add notes to it. So you may not be able to, but then in the chat room here on YouTube, is that the right place to put it? Probably. Let's go there. See if you guys can see that. I think I have the ability to make that work. If you guys want to share in the show notes. Oh, yeah, I like the zoomed in. So, like, as opposed to this is, I think Mike and I always go this route. Ken says he likes the zoomed in better. Kevin, do you have any preferences this way or this way? This is what we do at work.
You can't. Yeah, you can't quite see as much junk behind me, so that's better that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, some of us collect it, some of us curate it.
I'm in a very big cleansing process right now, so. So you're free. Your video's freezing every once in a while. Is mine flowing okay?
That's helpful.
I'm not sure if it's on my end or your end.
You haven't been freezing. Chat room, have either one of us? Are you seeing? You've been fine, but I shouldn't be. Access the following document. Do I have to give everybody access? Needs permissions. Okay, hold on. Let's restrict it. Can open. That's the one change. Oh, got it. Okay, so try it again, chat room. Try it again. See if that makes any difference. Everybody's requesting. I'm getting hammered on Gmail because everybody's asking for access. I just changed the share. Up there they go. Okay, so they're in there. So don't mess up the notes, by the way. When you're out there, don't mess it up. Can you guys edit? If you guys want to add to it,
yes.
Yeah, you're welcome to. Be kind of fun community. That's been a dream of mine, is to have kind of community. And in the good news is, I think I can trust everybody, but there's always that one person who comes in and deletes the whole thing. Like, and you're like, oh, that wasn't actually very helpful. I wonder if there's any versioning. Hey, John. Hi to you. You can stay around. You can sleep tomorrow. You can sleep over the weekend, John. Jeez. It's not like you're doing anything important at work or anything. Come on. So, no. Okay. So good. It's view only. They can't edit. You can see what's coming up. Justin asked the same question I did. Does Google Docs have versioning? I imagine it does. It would have to, right? Don't you think?
I believe it does. Yes, it does, but only if you are leaving it in the web. We're a growing company, and we use Google Sheets for way too much stuff, and there is versioning there because it will kick you out if somebody else tries to change a changing, and it seems to handle that fairly well, actually.
Okay, I think so. I just changed the permissions, so you guys should be able to edit. So check it out. See if you can jump in there and add anything. Listen, if this gets out of hand, I do have Kevin's notes in a separate spot if I need to, but we both froze up for just a second. So thanks for that, Justin. So jump in. Yeah, I see somebody just highlighted the whole thing. Don't listen. You're gonna ruin your edit privileges like this. I'm trying this out. I just want to see if this works, and you guys can have access to it. I'd be open since many of you are. Yeah, Kevin, I'm getting a little freezing from you now. It's every once in a while. I wonder if it's CPU utilization or something.
Could be. Let me try and kill off everything I'm not using.
If you want to add to the conversation, that's really what I'm kind of thinking about in these show notes. If you've got things you want to add in or links that you want to add in as well, you're welcome to give that a try during the program. So yeah, stop that mining. Stop that. I've got a story about the folding, an update on the folding. Although it's not much of an update, but we'll talk about that. Have you stopped all? You were in that with us, right?
I was a little bit, but I was running pretty light on it. So yeah.
Did you drop it? Have you dropped it completely?
Yeah, I have. So that should all be gone.
Yeah. Me too. Okay, that's looking good. Guys, welcome. Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate you guys in the chat room there. I'm not feeling the best, so we'll hope we push this thing through. I have to go into the office tomorrow. Well, at least I don't have to, but I have an appointment in the office. I really wasn't planning on it, but I really need to go in for it. But if I'm not feeling well, nix the Bonhoff on that one. We are not going in. So let's see. Close the dock and reopen. I can edit now. There you go. So you might need to refresh the dock or whatever. I changed the privileges, so you guys should be able to edit now. If you want to go in and add things to it, that'll be kind of fun. You can kind of see in advance what we're talking about. I may not stick right to it, but we'll stick pretty close. So stick and move, as we like to say. Kevin, we have enough. We'll have to, not spend too much time on any one.
Nope. We'll hit them as we go.
Okay.
If you can keep an eye on chat. I closed out my chat windows to minimize everything. I am running fairly high CPU, and I'm not sure why. So.
Do you want to reboot and see if that fixes it, or because you're still freezing up a little bit?
Okay.
Or anything you can. We got a minute if you want to figure out how to.
Let me reboot and come back in.
Okay, we'll see in a minute.
Okay.
There he goes. We'll see if we can get a new instance of Kevin Schoonover without the freezing and unfreezing. Justin, nice job at the end of the dock. Yeah, you guys can make jokes at the bottom of the dock if you want. Whatever. Be nice now. Don't make me boot. Don't make me regret this decision to give you guys edit rights to the show notes. Yeah, I've always had this. I've always had this kind of dream that I would be able to kick Kevin out. Let me see. Let me remove him. See if I can kick from the studio. Nah, I don't want to do that. It'll drop automatically. Of having some dynamic show notes in there. There he goes. And allowing you guys to update them as we go. I think this isn't the first time I've done this. I think I've opened it to you guys before. And I got 0. I think. Pretty sure it wasn't much from you. So Paul did it the other day when we did Paul's show. And he published them. I don't think he could edit them because they were on his website. So hopefully you guys are all well. Yep, I can see it as well. So Justin, thanks for doing that. No worries. Hope you guys are all well and everybody's doing fine. I saw some conversation, I think, in the Discord group. Bruce had mentioned that he's stuck with 10 days of isolation in his own house from the family. They banished him to the spare room with a PC, Xbox TV, and Plex. No symptoms yet, so as long as I keep feeling okay, he'll have to learn some more Unraid and catch up on some gaming. I got a feeling after 10 days of isolation, I won't want to look at my computer for a while. So Bruce coming in on the Discord group. Justin, thanks for jumping out there and responding like you do. Andrew, I know you jump in from time to time. Wait for Kevin to come back. Here, we'll see if we can get him back here and rebooted and back in. Hopefully nothing was going wrong with this PC. If you haven't, if you're on Windows, heavy Windows person, there's some updates waiting for you. They were pinging me early, I guess last night, and just pestering the crap out of me to install them. So we got those done as well. All right, let's bring Kevin back in, see if this maybe is a little better. Give me a little sound check there, Kevin.
Hello. Check 1, 2.
No, not on your mic. Go back into StreamYard.
Okay. There we go. Camera, audio. Yep, picked the wrong mic. How do I sound now?
Hey, you sound great now. You sound good now. Joe says he could take 10 days off. No, 10 days of isolation and still not run out of stuff on the to-do list.
Still working through
that. Would, 10 days isolated that way. I don't know. I know I may crack at this point. I may crack at this. I need to do something different. Even Colorado over the weekend wasn't enough. I don't know. I need to do something different. All right, Kevin. I think how's your CPU utilization?
Still nasty high.
Still high.
And I got nothing running. So
when we share screen. What's your camera? What do you run at C920 or what are you running?
The Microsoft Life cam.
Go into your settings. Go into let's see. Go down to the toolbar down below, and go into your camera settings, and click Show Advanced.
Yep.
And what resolution are you running?
720.
Okay, no, that's the right. I thought maybe I'd switch this over to 1080p this channel, but I don't think I did.
Yeah.
So all right, well, let's do it.
We'll see what happens.
Jim, my mom's birthday was successful. We got it. I went. That's the whole reason I went to Colorado, was to celebrate 90 with my mom, and we did it. We got it done. She's fine. I think she's okay. So, yeah, you don't have any updates. You want to check your Windows updates? Those are all due.
Yeah, I think I cleared all those prior to getting on board here. So hopefully things settle down.
You if you're going to add to the notes, leave a little dash your name so I know who added there. If you can do that officially. So, okay, well, let's just do it. I've podcasted under worse conditions. So let's just, I think, even for my own side. So, all right, here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 455, recorded on August 13th, 2020. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. Kevin, have you guys struggled at all with thunderstorms this summer? Have they been any severe up there?
Yeah, we've had a couple of nasty runs through. Just over the weekend, we had some very large hail mixed in, and they seem to come in bands across. So we've had our share this year.
Yeah, it has been. We had a windstorm on Monday. We were out and took down Uyghur's fence. If you follow Uyghur, by the way, Uyghur is out tonight. I think taking a little vacation or something. I can't remember, but completely blew down Uyghur's fence. And so he's got a little work to do. Of course, Petey lives out there, and so he's got a little work to do to put the fence up. But we'll post a show with world-class show notes tonight. Show notes shared by those listening live. So you never know. You might want to head out to the AverageGuy.tv/HGG4. What did I say the show was? 455? Is it 450? No, 445. There we go. 445. Can't remember myself. And you can... although I have 455 in the show notes. Wait a minute. What's the number of this show, Kevin? Do you know? 455? I don't think I've done 450. Yeah, it is 455. Okay. HGG455. There we go. Definitive answer. You will see, hopefully, there'll be some updated show notes from those who are listening live as well. Don't forget, you can also join us on our mobile app, homegadgetgeeks.com. When Kevin was on the road, he used to join us a lot on Thursday nights from the road. Best way to stream the podcast live. When I remember to click the Spreaker button, and homegadgetgeeks.com, you can download that for free. I've already talked to him once tonight, but Kevin Schoonover is joining us. And of course, Kevin is the king of deals in both our Discord group and over at Home Server Show. The Home Server Show forums or reset forums, whatever we call those things these days. Kevin, welcome to the program.
Hey, good to be back.
Good to have you. We are going to spend some time tonight thinking about some free utilities, not necessarily 100% Windows driven. We're going to start right off the bat with one that's not. But before we get started, quick little update. Many in the community way back in the early days of the pandemic, which feels like 100 years ago. Like it just like February is like 1980, basically, for me. That's what it feels like. But we all got involved. I think it was January, February time. We got involved in the Folding at Home program. A lot of folks jumped in. We threw some GPUs at it. Everybody got fired up. I got my power bill. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be have all 4 GPUs running on this thing. I took it down to 2 and then took it down to 1 and dropped it. In the show notes, there is a link. Silicon Prairie News is actually a news outlet, a tech news outlet out of Omaha. And they it's funny. It's like they just discovered this was happening in their article. I'll show that on screen here. So I had done the Silicon Prairie News Minute for a while, a little podcast I did with their editor-in-chief over there. But they recently have highlighted they're still going. And it's still the number one supercomputer in the world. And they interviewed some folks who were supporting it in this article. Again, I'll have the link in the show notes. And have said, no, we're still making progress on the thing. I think, Kevin, the reason I highlight this, I was hoping this article would have some update on with COVID, if they kind of had found anything. And it didn't, unfortunately. So it was one of those situations where I was like, oh, maybe they found something. They haven't yet. But if you're still doing that, awesome. Still continue to do it. It's still needed. They're still cranking on that thing. Many of us jumped in and then stopped, and that's okay too. It kind of works out. It was a little alarming when I got the power bill that month, and I was like, oh, crypto's one thing, but folding, I don't know. You jumped in and helped, didn't you?
A bit, and we were joking around that once air conditioning season is done, maybe we all start helping again, so that we can heat our houses off from GPU power. So
yeah. Well, that's maybe I'll wait. It won't be that long before we see some cold weather here, and we can do it again. So that link will be in the show notes if you want to head out to the Silicon Prairie News article. Not a lot of update there. I was kind of hoping there'd be some updates and there wasn't. Kevin, tonight the intention is to spend some time again looking at some utilities, and I'll throw in some alt utilities that we have in there as well. But I'd ask you, hey, like let's go through a list of just some things that are free that we can use in various situations. Why don't you get us kicked off with a solution that I have kicked around a couple times and then I kick it to the curb? Why don't you talk about that?
As I have also just had a situation where cleaning up some old computers, and it's a we've got good recycling facility here. They'll basically take any electronic device you want to drop off, but there's also some good charities that work hard to get computing devices to folks who maybe can't afford them. So I'm always stuck a little bit in what is something that should be recycled versus what is something that may be useful to someone yet. And I had an older laptop I needed to move through, 2 gigahertz processor, 2 gig of memory. I was able to bump it up to 4 gig of memory running Windows Vista. Had to get rid of Vista. So it just gave me the opportunity. I hadn't played with any of the Linux variants for a while. For those well-versed in Ubuntu, Ubuntu Mate is the flavor of choice for things like that for most people, or for many people. And it, very lightweight, very quick to load up, very easy to use. And I was impressed. Once again, back to this charity, they're looking for something that a person can take with them. So laptops are great. All they need is a web browser so that they can help them show how to research things, how to look for jobs, how to apply for jobs. There's a great mail client built in. And I have to admit that after getting this up and running, I was pleasantly surprised that an old AMD 2 gigahertz processor and 4 gig of memory was usable. And in this case, I did shell out another $20 to put a brand new battery in it. That was a little surprising that Amazon had a battery for this old laptop for $20. So somebody hopefully has a good, well-working laptop now.
Andrew wants us to know it's pronounced Mai Tai instead of mate.
Well,
that doesn't make any sense, by the way. It's not spelled that way. It's spelled mate, but that's okay. Nothing like nerds trying to get cute with the naming on things, right?
Well, I appreciate Andrew for letting us know how it should be pronounced.
Pronounced Mai Tai. I'm going to call it mate for the rest of the show, just to annoy people. It is one of these things. I mentioned this. I've gone to Ubuntu several times. At least once a year, I put it on a laptop or something, and I think, okay, I'm gonna give it a good college try. I'm gonna do this. And a week later, I'm like, why? It just isn't. It just for whatever reason, it hasn't worked for me. Doesn't mean though, Kevin. I think in a lot of situations, doesn't mean though it doesn't have value. And in this space, this is awesome. Where it does give life to old computers, right? When we think, we've gone through this time here, both globally and especially in the United States, around some equality, right, of giving opportunities. And so there are some opportunities to take some hardware for folks who don't have the opportunities and get it in their hands where they need it. Now we still have some problems around internet and making sure everybody's connected and some of those kinds of things. But this is a step to at least getting some equipment. I think the good news in this case is these things do run pretty well on pretty limited equipment. And so, from when he talks about productivity and accessing the internet and a web browser and some of those kinds of things work pretty well, don't you think?
Yeah, it does. And that's, a good simple Office package built into it, which is pretty compatible with most other packages out there. So once again, talking to the guys at Free Geeks, it clicks all their buttons because they can show a person how to write a resume. They can show a person, and they're dealing with a lot of, folks who are, don't have good access to computer equipment. And, we're sometimes I'm surprised at the number of people who still rely on libraries for computer use. And with COVID, that being shut down was a real issue as well. So, it was very functional, very usable. Thunderbird email client in there seems to work well. So between browsing, email, and an Office package, really kind of clicks all the boxes for the
Yeah.
average grab and go use.
Yeah, and something that you can get in somebody's hands. We've had them on the show before, I think, or I've talked about them before. An alternative to that would be KeyPod, KEEPOD. I'll show their website as well if you're watching the video. KeyPod, you can either buy it or now they've got their OSs available as well for download for free. USB keys are $29. For a while, that you'd buy one, they would ship one to somewhere in the world where somebody needed computing. And the difference on this, you could do this with this this Ubuntu system, Mate, let's just call it that. Put it on a USB drive, and then they can just plug it into, you could have a single workstation that people share, like at a library or whatever. Maybe this doesn't work as well during COVID, but then run it, save everything on this, take your OS with you, and you have everything that you need right here. So they also have a version, and they have gotten kind of security focused over the last year or two. In other words, everything that you can do to secure your browser, to all those, to kind of remove all the things that track you, they've added to the OS, so that you can't be tracked or minimally tracked, maybe for that. So KeyPod, KEEPOD, they contacted me the other day, a month or two ago. Said, hey, have you tried it out in a while? It works pretty well. Boots pretty easily. When you're done, just pull it out. Another great alternative.
Yeah. No, and I think for a lot of people, they're more interested, as you and I were talking before the show, I end up defaulting back to Windows all the time. Yeah. But I look at younger people, my kid is perfectly happy with the Chromebook because everything they do in school is Google based, at least at our school district. So initially I was concerned about some of the limitations of Chromebook, but it works perfectly for that environment. And then, he's got a Windows machine. So, gaming wise, everything's squared away over there. So it's all good from that point of view. But, I think people are realizing, hey, if a Chromebook can do it, now all of a sudden we're looking more from the point of view of for what limited stuff I need to do, this Linux distribution is good enough to get me going.
Yeah. Could be a great alternative. Back to the Windows side, and this is a program that started as one thing, has moved to another, but Windows 10 Skip and Sketch. Right? There we go.
Snip and Sketch.
Yeah.
So we should have practiced this. Can I share screens here?
Yeah. Just go down to the share screen down below, and then just tell it what window to share, and it'll drop it out for you. I think that originally, and I have that up on my a Windows 10. It started as the snipping tool. So what's there? It's got a mode that, and then I need to share your screen there. And then, you might want to just share the instance of just that
one app.
Yeah, you can share whatever. Yeah, just that one app. Here, I'll take you off for a second until you get that.
Okay.
So it started as a snipping tool, and that's still in there, but there's a huge ad inside the snipping tool now and it just says try Snip and Sketch, and a little more power and gets a few more options. So we'll see as Kevin can bring this up. I think now it's just, if you have the latest build of Windows 10, I think both tools are available for you.
Yep.
There's in the StreamYard share, there's an application tab at the top. If you click that, it'll just allow you to share.
I pulled it down. It's giving me every application but that one.
I wonder if it's because it's a Windows. Let me try this. I wonder if it's because it's a here, I'll share it. There we go.
Okay. Good. So, and as Jim said, so the snipping tool has been in there for a long time. And some of these apps, I don't ever present these as being, oh God, look what I found. I kind of make the assumption that lots of folks have used these things in the past or have worked with them. So if you have used the snipping tool, it's great screen capture. Go out and grab something off your screen. Snip and Sketch gives you the ability to highlight or annotate or add some text to it. I'm working for a company right now, great company, smaller company, just kind of finding our way in lots of ways. we have a lot of systems that don't talk to each other. So inevitably, we end up, I catch myself quite frequently having to jump in, trying to explain something to somebody, go into one tool and grab a screenshot of it, go annotate it, show what I'm talking about, and pop it back over to them. There's maybe quicker ways to, or not quicker, there's maybe more controlled ways to do it in a Word document or a PDF or something else, but this is quick and easy. I can just take a snap of a screen, annotate it, send it off, and our entire sales team does a ton of this now. As we move ahead, I can see some of this going away as more of our online systems talk to each other and become more automated. But today, at the point we're in, this has been a lifesaver. It's just been very quick and easy to use. And if you're not using it and you have the opportunity or you have the need to grab something off your screen and show it to somebody, that fantastic tool to do it. And the editing functions are really made it come together.
Yeah, no, it's not, it's actually really nice. It's actually in there was I'm trying to think, there used to be a Grab It, was that, or
Yep.
Snag It? I think it was
Snag It. Snag It was one of the better screen captures. Camtasia was the big one that was a whole screen capture. And speaking of that, the next one on the list, which I probably won't, I might be able to show. So with Zoom and all the conferencing stuff we're doing, and me not being able to get out to California to do some of the things that are going on there, I had the need the other day where we were on with a customer and we were doing Zoom, and one of my engineers had a live camera in our production area, taking a camera feed from a build we were doing for this customer. And I know the customer was recording the Zoom conference to keep it, but I was sitting there thinking, hey, this would be really cool this would be great if I could just capture what's on my screen right now, so that I didn't have to ask the customer for a copy of the Zoom recording of it. And then it popped into my head that with all Windows PCs, you get the Xbox Game Bar. And the Game Bar, in most cases, it's already installed on your system, but there's a DVR built into it. If you haven't played with this, if you hit Windows key, Alt, and G, it'll bring up the Game Bar, and up in the upper left corner is the DVR. And many times it'll ask you, is the thing that you're going to record a game? You click yes, and it basically records whatever's on your screen. Practice with it a little bit because the audio can be a little much to get that to capture. But once I've got that down, once again, between this and Snippet, if I'm doing something live and I need to capture it, there's maybe better tools out there, but this is a free one. It's built into Windows, and I've had good luck with it.
Yeah, I've heard Paul Thurrott talk about this several times. And it is not one, and I probably need to practice with it more, just with the job that I do, in creating those videos that have animation to them to help people do things, right? That's go here, go there, get that done. Dave Jackson, who I podcast with on Saturday mornings, he's really good at that, and I think he uses Camtasia to get that done. But he is really good at making sure he provides that support back to his customers that way. So a great way to get that done. Windows is also, we'll stay on that theme. They have also been working hard on a Your Phone app, which continues. I think it's only Android, right? At this point, the iPhone, there's some limited functionality with iPhone, but talk a little bit about that.
I think it, so I've only got Android, so I can only speak from that point of view, but I'm trying to remember. Now, you know what? I think it does work with iPhone, because I think when I first set this one up again, it asked me what kind of a phone I had.
Okay.
But I've been playing with way too many things, so I don't exactly recall on that. Yeah. And you mentioned some of the work that they're doing. They seem to be doing a ton these days with Samsung. So there's lots of specialty things that they've worked on with garnering some of the same functions and some of the same tools back and forth. For me, the thing that, and part of it's the work from home thing again, is what it allows me to do. And because I'm remote from our office, is now from my computer, I can use my phone to make phone calls with my headset and microphone. Not a huge deal, but between setting in on Zoom calls, setting in on, we use GoToMeeting as well, and we use the IP phone dialing in that. I've kind of hit the point now where I can leave one headset on and grab a call from any function that's coming in. Messaging is integrated. So now, without having to grab my phone, I can read text messages. I can bring text messages back in. I can send text messages. So if you haven't played with the Your Phone feature, I was impressed. It's really come a long ways from where it had been. And it was a little clunky in the past when they first launched it and got it going, but now and my computer has a good Bluetooth connection, so it connected up well from that point of view. But I've been pretty impressed with it. It's not a ton of features, not a ton of functions, but if it would be important for you to be able to do messaging and calls with your phone from your PC, it seems to work quite well.
I think there's also a window hello component for both Android and iPhone where you can now, the device, I think it's a Bluetooth feature. The device kicks in when you can sign in. I don't think you can sign in with it, but you can, if you leave, it'll automatically lock your computer. So they've been pimping that on my latest version of Windows at work. They keep saying, hey, do you want to attach the device to the device? So, when you walk away, we'll automatically lock your PC. I walk away from my computer too much, so no, I'm good. We do have where they are going to start allowing PIN access for sign in on using Windows Hello. Of course, you can use a photo if you have touch, where you can touch or slide whatever certain parts of the photo. If you have a Windows Hello compatible camera, it'll unlock it in that way. So I think they're getting and those are getting really, really good. But if you haven't tried Your Phone yet on Windows, that may be something to give it a try to see some of the options, kind of, I think, based on your phone, whether it's Android or iPhone, and then even different versions of those, I think have different capabilities, right?
Yeah, and like I say, Samsung, they seem to be doing quite a lot with Samsung these days, so that seems to be moving part of the direction they're moving in from that point of view as well.
Yeah, no, I think they're partnering with them on some of these. Hey, just to go back a little bit, Justin, and this is what I'm looking for from the show notes, Justin had dropped a link to another alternative. A VLC has a screen capture ability. This is a great wiki on how to get that done. Justin has thrown that in the show notes. So if you want to head out there, we didn't prep for this, so we won't talk about it too much. But if you want to, maybe you're using VLC already and you didn't know this, you can check it out there. We'll leave that link in the show notes as well. So Justin, thanks for dropping that in there. Kevin, anything else you'd say about, are you using any of the security features with Android or iPhone on Windows, or are you using you said you're using it for phone calls and text messages?
Mostly just for phone calls and text messages. And the thing that I've got to work on is most of this is configured and working with my home computer. I'm having a little problem moving back and forth between my work laptop and my home computer, and that might push me to go to two phones, a work phone and a home phone, just to keep the integration. We just went to a corporate version of LastPass for work, and we're using Duo as the authentication for that on the phone. So it should all work, but it might just make it easier from a struggle point of view if I just do it one way or the other.
Yeah. There's lots of options for that.
Yep.
Lots of options. Yeah. I am. And I just realized I was looking at LastPass the other day, and it was throwing me an ad for premium. And I'm like, I'm already a premium user. Wait a minute. And I must not have paid because it dropped me to a free user. And I was like, oh, well, shoot, I'll have to go in and check. Maybe I clicked through it. Sometimes when you set up your spam email as the email, you register that with the business, and then it drops into a spam account, your chances of actually seeing it are pretty small. So, I need to probably head back over to LastPass and resubscribe to them as well. I think we use KeyPass at work, and I've got that. I have a version of that. That's one that stays local. Yep. It doesn't have a web interface. So I use that for all my work passwords and get that done there. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think I've got the share seems to work on browsers. So go ahead and finish your thought, and we can move to the next item.
No, you ready to move on to the next thing? Or okay. Sure. So you had put Tinkercad in there, and I'd never seen this one before. Let's talk a little bit about it.
So Tinkercad is from the Autodesk, the AutoCAD folks. They came up with a online version of their tool. I am not good at drafting. I love 3D printing, but what holds me back is drafting. What's up on the screen right now is some of the designs and things that I've worked on in the past. I'm fairly good with Visio, but Visio is not the real tool from a drafting industry point of view. So I've dabbled with this quite a bit over the years and have come up with designs and things that work. The thing I'm highlighting over here was a prototype of a little plastic piece to hold a disk drive on the now no longer available Schoondoggy HP Gen 8 bracket, but it was dabbling quite a bit with that. So if you're working at getting into 3D printing and you want an easy way to do some drafting, do some design drawing, Tinkercad can be a great way to do that. There's a lesson plan up top here. They've got great educational things to go through it. So there's all that goodness, but the thing, and I know I'm breaking all the rules of presentation because I'm not ready to present this, but what I was surprised about that I hadn't seen before was they've gone to code blocks. So if any of you have looked at some of the code designs that allow you to just cut and paste blocks in, they're supporting that through Tinkercad now. And being a sort of a junior electrical engineer kind of guy, I'm just a couple credits short from finishing the full double E. I thought it was interesting that they've gone to electronic design circuits in their designs.
That's cool.
So you can drag and drop components, make simple circuits, and there's a simulator built in. So you take a battery and a resistor and an LED, you hit simulation, and the LED lights up. Everything's good. My digital circuitry days, 555 timers are kind of the core of a lot of cute little circuits you can do, one-shot timers and things like that. But they drift off into Arduino on this, so you can do some simulations of Arduino designs. There's some distance sensors. If you're looking for a way to, and I'm thinking in terms of a little bit of the distance learning stuff we're on right now, I was really pleasantly surprised to see these guys had drifted off, not drifted off, but expanded their offering from traditional CAD offering into some of the other simulations and things they can do. So it just caught me off guard a little bit. I hadn't expected it, but very, very interesting that they've gone off into the circuit design and the coding as well.
Will it catch fire if you do it incorrectly? Will the battery smoke? Will the wires melt? Wouldn't that be funny?
I should have tried that.
Overload the circuit and see if you can get, some of the wires to melt. If it would pick up faults, that would be actually helpful because it'd be like where it does a little simulation where the wire just kind of goes, and just kind of melts its way through.
This is where you would have burnt your fingers.
Yeah. This is where now the house smells like an electrical fire. Thank you.
Does it smell like burning chicken? That would be your flesh.
Super good. That stuff is important. I had some house wiring that only didn't catch the house on fire because it was in a metal box. Mm-hmm. And so when the electrician came, he was like, you're a metal box away from this place burning down. And so it's it is good to be able to test the circuits. And I've had electricians in here twice, and one was to upgrade the circuit panel. We were still on the old screw-in fuses, and so I had an electrician come in and replace the panel and up it from 100 to 150 amp service.
Mhm.
And that's when he discovered it. And I Ken said, "Hey, could you check and look?" And he's like, "No, that would be too expensive. If you have me starting to check your wiring, because it's an old house."
Yeah.
He's like, that's gonna get costly pretty fast. This I'll fix because I saw it. But so I was like, so I've been slowly going through some of my wiring, trying to upgrade it and make sure it's up to par as we do it. But nice to have a simulation and a simulator in there, especially on the Arduino side, because those are components you can give to kids, and then they can build it, test it virtually, and then build it and test it in person.
Well, and there's so much, and not a free place, but the Adafruit site is a distribution electronics company that really specializes in a lot of this stuff. A friend of mine, former coworker, is the CEO at Spark Fun, and they're very into this as well. As they're making electronics easy for kids to pick up and play with and learn and code, and basically take a little single board computer and make it all work. Bring it all together.
Yeah, there was a lot of chatter about that before the pandemic, and I actually haven't seen or heard, and maybe it's just because the school systems punted completely, right? And so it's destroyed after school programs. It's destroyed, some of those things where these kids were getting this. I sure hope we can get back to it at some point. Maybe the fall is not the right time. Apparently, according to the Big Ten, fall isn't the time to play football.
Fall is not the time, no. But I'm glad you bring that up, because for parents out there, go hit Adafruit's website. I'll think Spark Funds. I know both of them have come up with not in-depth curriculum, but they make it quite easy for you to go out and pick up a learning kit with their stuff and let your kids kind of learn it on their own. They've got some learning packages there, some different things you can do from that point of view. So
Adafruit, just like it sounds, ADAFRUIT.com. You can check that out. We're showing that right now, and they've got some projects that you can do. I need to do. You'd sent me a what were those circuit boards that you sent me?
The BBC.
Yeah.
I can't think what they were called.
What did they call those things? Yeah, and I never did the circumstances around the work I was doing kind of changed with the interns, but there are still great opportunities to do this stuff at home, and I think for some moms and dads that may be a great opportunity to do it with kids. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Joe had put in chat a little bit earlier. He says he's a little timid about adopting anything Microsoft anymore. You could insert the word Google in this thing as well, right? Timid about adopting anything Google or Microsoft anymore, as they are likely to kill it at any moment. And yet, Kevin, the next thing that you want to talk about is a Microsoft tool.
And I share his concern. Yeah. and actually this one, I think we all have a long history of Microsoft jumping in and out of things, making things nice and then killing them. Google does a lot of the same thing.
They do.
A few years ago, my favorite to-do list product was Wunderlist. Wunderlist was a great product. Loved it because voice, you could call out to your voice assistant, have them add something to the grocery list, have all your family members on Wunderlist. Microsoft loved it so much they bought it, and then I'm not sure what they exactly did with it, because they bought another one called To Do, and Microsoft To Do became the mainstay for that. Still, from a personal basis, To Do, it works out really well with lists, task lists, to-do lists. So from our family point of view, shopping lists, activity lists, different things that we want to coordinate, seems to work very well. what's gotten me going on this from a business point of view as well is from some of the developers conferences, I've started to notice that back to that phone thing with Samsung being tied in with Microsoft pretty heavily, there was an announcement that Samsung reminders are going to sync with Microsoft to-do lists. So now all of a sudden you're going to start to see more synergy across that platform. At work, we're using Microsoft Teams for a lot of our activity, and I catch myself constantly looking at whether it's project management or Teams, and the ability to track a project, but can I really boil it down to individual tasks or action items? And from a developers conference, I can see where Microsoft To Do is going to be one of the routes they're looking at to be able to boil down tasks out of Teams and pop it into a to-do list. And then there's another new technology from Microsoft called Microsoft Planner, which is kind of the glue to go in between Microsoft Project, Microsoft Teams, a lot of these other functions. And there is a strong push with inside of Microsoft to have To Do be the focal point of task management for all those items. So, and then Microsoft will kill it and we'll all be pissed off.
I don't think so. I don't think on To Do, that's a pretty basic, it's going to get Teams integration. The direction is to move everything into Teams.
Yep.
And so, and actually the integration with the Office products, so like Word and Excel and some of those inside Teams, not bad. I mean, not perfect yet, but not bad. It actually works pretty well. This week we got the rollout for the more, so now we can have 9, I think it's 9 windows. And we can get the video window pops out. It used to stay inside Teams, now it pops out. And so we're a Teams customer at Gallup, and it took me a while to figure out, like, okay, where's the window going? Like where I had a call going, and then the window was gone. And they continue to make pretty rapid improvements to it. Kevin, I don't think this is one. I don't see them, and maybe so. I don't know. I do see them kind of rolling this into the Microsoft 365 or the Office 365, whatever they're calling it these days, family of products, and it probably staying as the To Do feature for those for a while. So this is one. I could be wrong, but this is one maybe around for a while.
Yeah, and I think because the thing with past products like this, they never seem to be embraced by the developers who build the glue that goes between all these other products, and this one does. So I think I think from that point of view, it could be a good link up tie that way.
Yeah,
so.
I'm as much as I'm a nerd, I still am a paper notes guy, and I cannot when push comes to shove, and I'm having that kind of pushing and shoving week for whatever reason. It's just that week where push came to shove. I go back to paper. I just can't. I don't know what it is about not being able to visualize it in my own brain when it's digital. And I'm more effective on paper. And maybe it's just the way I grew up, or it's because I'm old, or I don't know. I'm not saying don't use, by the way, this is not like everybody should still be on paper and get off my lawn. This is not one of those. If you can do it digitally, awesome. I have just tried for 25 years to make the digital jump, and I just can't do. I can do some of it, but when the pressure's on, I go right back to paper. And it's I don't know. For me, it's just easier to do. So I have a laundry list here and some notes on the back. I always keep a pad on my desk. I just have one. And anytime I need something and I need to take notes, I do have I do have a sticky note from Windows. If you haven't used their sticky notes in a while, I do have a sticky note on my desk that's got a bunch of notes on it. That it's got like my daily routine. There's some things I do. I check YouTube first. I promote our webcasts. I post to Eventbrite. I schedule the streams. Like, there's some things I do, and that's on a sticky note on my computer, and that works out really well. But the to-do stuff, I kind of just want to check it off. Andrew does say, he says, I think we're just old. And that's true in a lot of ways. But Kevin, have you found success in moving over to digital to do?
As you're talking about that, I'm back on paper again. I go back and forth with it. Um, good segue to talk about a topic that I didn't want to talk about, but Microsoft has the new Surface Duo device coming out. And if I was more of a road warrior than I used to be, I would love to have one of those to experiment with. And when I think about the times that I was very paperless, I had a small tablet or, did everything in notes. But every time I look at that thing, I go, God, I'd love to play with that. But for $1,500, I'll build myself a really cool gaming desktop. Yeah. Oh, but I'd love to see how well I could have 2 apps running on that. But for $1,500, I'm going to build a cool gaming desktop.
Yeah, you kind of have to, don't you? I mean, now to be fair, the $1,500 is the 256 version, right?
Yeah, that is
$1,400. Sorry.
Finish laughing because I'm gonna put a joke on top of your joke.
Wrap it up, Buzzball. Right? Oh my God.
$1,400 or $1,500. And you don't get the pen. You still have to buy the pen separate.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of conversation going on Twitter about this in our groups, and everybody's kind of been like, "Yikes, $1,500 for that." I think it's a little jump the shark moment for Microsoft, right? Don't you think? Now, this being said, I bet at Christmas you can get these for $9.99.
That's If it was something under 1,000, it would be much more. And this is the kind of thing that if the Microsoft stores hadn't have closed, COVID and everything else, I would have to go play with this, because even though I can see some use case for it, I'm getting kind of hung up on, they show the picture with you having it set sideways with a virtual keyboard on it. So you're using it kind of like a little laptop. And I'm thinking, would you use it that way? It's not going to sit on your lap. I'm flying a lot for business. Hey, it would fit nicely on top of the tray in front of me. When they keep talking about it being an 8.1-inch screen, it's got a line down the middle of it. Yeah. So I don't see you using it to watch a movie full screen mode, because you'd have a line right down the middle of it. That mode you've got on the screen right now with like an app on either side, I think that would be one of the better use cases for it. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm way too much of a Microsoft optimist, a technology optimist.
Yeah.
And other people are building products like this. Samsung's got something coming out. Other people are heading down this idea. I'm not seeing it for $1,500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I think we're going to see. They're not going to sell very many. I mean, they'll sell to the enthusiasts, and then I think by Christmas there'll be ways to buy this thing at under $1,000.
Could very well be
some options. There are some interesting form factors, and when you think about, again, the timing is bad, but when you think about on a plane, there are some nice, like, the dual app, maybe turning that thing up and watching watching a movie here and doing some email down here or something, right? Where you've got a few options. I see for some people this will be a real could be really, really, really interesting. Yeah. The hinge will be interesting. It's kind of built similar to the Surface hinge, and they learned some things from that. We'll see how well that holds up. We know how the first version of Samsung's Fold worked out. It didn't.
Don't take the tape off.
It'll just be interesting to see how well this does when we're still not to a point where we've really had a mainstream device where you folded 2 screens together. Right. And so it'll be interesting to see. Jim wants you to know, let's see if I can find that note, that Kevin, you can't put a gaming desktop in your pocket. So that's I mean, you can go with all of that, but at the end of the day, although when we had Jay Madison on, he's got some pretty small gaming rigs that we looked at, so that may also fit in.
He's got some pretty unique ideas there.
Probably not into your pocket, but Kevin, as we think about antivirus and malware and ransomware, and this is kind of a topic here we used to talk about. If I go back to the sub 100 days of what was Home Tech then, now Home Gadget Geeks, we talked about this stuff all the time, and it's kind of become obsolete. Now, I don't know if that's because we've just all figured out what we're going to use. I'm a Bitdefender guy, and so I just kind of have a Bitdefender box that is my router and does a bunch of cool things for me. So Windows antivirus has gotten pretty good, I think, in doing what it does. It comes free on Windows 10. We're not doing that anymore. But an old application from way back, by the way, I think I still have a version of this on my mom's computer, but it's Malwarebytes, and it's still free.
Yep.
Are you using it? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think so. In some of the next links that I shared here, so malware and antivirus, I think, are still important things to address. It's gotten to the point where I don't think you have to spend an arm and a leg on this stuff, but to me it still comes down to antivirus and Malwarebytes do two separate things. Not necessarily a free version, but just in my own home, I've seen this happen many times. But I don't get hit with virus and malware that much. As my kid was going through those formative years and they click on anything they find, they run into lots of malware and antivirus problems. My wife tended to end up with malware that was very browser driven. She'd launch something that she thought was okay to launch, and then all of a sudden her computer speakers are telling her that she needs to send Bitcoin to somebody because she's got a virus. And the point I'm driving at there is the times I've noticed that being a problem is when I was between good firewalls, when I was experimenting with something different. For the past 6 months, I've been back on Untangle again, and the number of times a member of my family locally here has said, "Hey, come fix this for me," has gone down to nothing. So to me, the best way to keep malware and antivirus at bay is get a really kick-ass firewall, something good. You mentioned Bitdefender. To me, that's a great system because it's a router firewall that I think does a very good job. There's the mainstays out there of pfSense, Sophos. I'm back on Untangle. Untangle is extremely easy to use. $50 a year for their home version of that. I think Anthony Rayner picked up one of the Firewalla boxes. So I look forward to seeing how that goes for him. I was really tempted to go with one of those.
Tony, we need to have you, as soon as you get that and you're comfortable with it, you should come on and talk about it, because I think that's a really interesting. That's a really interesting product. One of the things I was showing on this is one of the things I've never really liked about Malwarebytes is you can get the free version, but I guarantee you they are going to grind you to upgrade to premium until you just finally like $40. And is it $40 a year? Yeah, $40 a year.
$40 a year. But I will tell you, go to Malwarebytes, and if you ever owned Malwarebytes, log into your account at Malwarebytes, because I had I bought one of those specials on Newegg of 5 PCs it was a great price. It was like, I think it was $39 for a year for 5 PCs. It was a great deal. So I go in to register those for all the computers in the house, and here over in the corner was a Malwarebytes license that I'd forgotten about, and it was unlimited with no expiration. So, and it just popped into my head as, at one point in time, Malwarebytes did have this unlimited package.
They did.
And I had one. So, and here, I'm sure the machine I had run it on has long since left here, but that license key, I was impressed that Malwarebytes still had the license key out there. So
Yeah, that's good advice. I will. I'll get out there. I can't remember what my login information is. I'll have to send for a password reset.
yep.
But you're right, and I think actually I bought an unlimited license from Newegg. I want to say back in the day, and I think it's installed on my mom's computer.
Yep.
So she has both. I think I have both Bitdefender and Malwarebytes on her computer plus Windows. Yep. And I've disabled, when you put Bitdefender on, you have to disable Windows.
Yep.
The Windows Defender.
But I think that's, so I think protect yourself. A good firewall does phenomenal things. Malwarebytes takes care of a lot of the other weirdness that happens that you maybe click on without realizing it's a bad thing. And antivirus, there's still viruses out there, and that's beneficial. The next kind of 3 links there, there's lots of free antivirus out there. I make recommendations, but I always tell people go to avtest.org or avcomparatives.org. Either one is great spots. Comparatives here now, they still do their testing on all different types of antivirus products, give you an idea of what they're working on. But they've also started doing some IoT stuff and IP camera based stuff to see how things spec out from a security point of view. Are there security holes in them? They give rankings and ratings on them. So AV Comparatives does a good job. AV Test probably does a little more detail in the rankings and comparisons. The thing you find as you dig into them these days is everybody has their bad version of product, but I'm still running LiveSafe from McAfee, and seems to, I don't have computer issues like I once had from antivirus products, and life seems to keep rolling right along with it. So down on the bottom there, tests for home users, and if you click on antivirus for Windows, it'll basically walk through their ratings, the ones that they show as picks, and there's lots of freebies out there that people can choose from.
The Bitdefender box, $100 a year, but I get unlimited Bitdefender, which works great for me. I put it on most of the computers. That it definitely does not like the Bitcoin, any of the miners. It definitely sees all those things. In fact, Windows does too. So I have to shut that off, and I don't use those. The miners I don't use on a regular basis. In fact, I don't use them at all anymore. I mean. They're mining, but it's not like I surf on them. So, so I've got a lot of things shut off on those to make those work. But that
is that. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a nice fit with something like Bitdefender, because there is some good synergy that can be made between the firewall and your endpoint security. And one of my experiments when I was trying a few different routes with things was Sophos as a firewall, which it's a great firewall, but it's a little complex, but they offer endpoint security as well. And that I just kind of felt like that would be a great combination to work with. And it did work really well, because there was a good tie-in between the firewall and the endpoint security, just a little more complex than I wanted to hit into. The next link there is, just one for kind of reference, is the AV Test guys kicked up this AV Atlas, which is it's a spot where they're bringing together lots of different analytics and data. So if you go up to the top there and click on Dashboard, it'll take a minute for it to refresh. And then it gives you just at a glance, what's going on in the world, what are the hot spots, where are bad things coming from, what kind of bad things are out there. If you're in the security end, or you're in IT and you want to know more about security, the suspicious links and emails. It's a good place. A lot of the IT guys I talk to, it gives them fuel for helping them talk to their users about not clicking on things in files and things from that point of view. If you look at over on the left, it's Black Hat URLs. Um, if you pull down on that one right there, and URLs and trends, I think is the screen for it. It gives you a list of a lot of the URLs that are floating around that should be stayed away from, and keywords that pop up with them, and just it's a good, not a ton of there is a ton of in-depth data here, not for the faint of heart, but if you do see your career going more in an IT security point of view, this can be a pretty cool way to get into it.
There's a lot of data there. I'm overwhelmed. I did one of the things I did see on that map in the look at the let's see if I can. It takes a second to load because there's all kinds of things going on there. So give it a second. We'll come back to the map. The two countries, it says, red is where most of the origin of spam is coming from. And of course, Russia and the United States lead the way in the origin of spam.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting, to say the least. You had put, in fact, I think we talked about this last show, so we won't spend a ton of time on it. But I still today am not super great at understanding, like, if I wanted to check my own internal Wi-Fi or my own bandwidth, like, I buy a new router or I buy a new switch, and I kind of want to test the bandwidth between the two, like, or I want to know, hey, do I have full bandwidth out of my computer to my router? Are there ways to do that?
Oh yeah. It's so where I end up getting hit in that area a lot is I spend too much time on forums trying to be that helpful person who helps people out. I have Sonos home stereo, home audio equipment, whole home audio stuff, and people love and hate Sonos for good reasons, but I can tell you the majority of the time with Sonos, answering questions on user groups ends up being trying to find ways to tell people their Wi-Fi is awful without making them feel bad that their Wi-Fi is awful. So some of the tools like the WinFi here is a way that you can load it up on a laptop. There's a lot of good tools from for Android and iPhone as well, handheld analyzer tools. This one I like because you can load it up. It will screen everything around you. Some of the big ones I look at with this one in helping people with Sonos is helping them understand that, you're picking up, it looks like you're picking up quite a bit of noise, and looking at, the top two up there is your 2.4 gigahertz network and your 5 gigahertz network, but your neighbor's 2.4 gigahertz network is on the exact same channel as yours is. So let's try changing your channel. And you'd be amazed at how much noise and interference goes away, because it's not just what's happening in your house. It could be what's happening in your neighbor's house.
Okay.
Or just walking around the house with one of these. I had a guy, kind of swearing up and down that, no, there's no problem. I got great Wi-Fi. I got phenomenal Wi-Fi. And he's walking around the house with this on the laptop. And he come to realize one of the areas that a speaker was really driving him nuts. And I'd asked him about other wireless devices because he had a ton of interference. And what it turned out was he had a wireless phone in there that was causing interference. He had a wireless mouse and wireless keyboard that was causing interference. Anything that's wireless, and if it's on the similar bands, it's going to give you some problems that way. So at first blush, this one will give you some good information from the point of view of what are your signal strengths like. You can, with the laptop or the handheld, you can walk around the house and, see how well you're filling the corners. Yeah, kind kind of a funny one that pops up once again. Back to the Sonos deal. A guy was saying how how he would one of his speakers would drop out every time he had a party, and people were saying, well, it's your network. Oh, it's not my network. My network's great, but it seems like when there's too many people in the room, the speaker drops out. That's crazy. Why would that happen? So I showed the guy that the human body blocks a lot of Wi-Fi, and if you load this on a laptop and you stand with the laptop with nothing between the laptop and your wireless device, your router, you'll get one reading. If you turn around and have your body between this and the router, you'll get a whole different reading. So it is based on the structure of your home. It is based on how many people are packed into an area. So there's lots of things from that point of view. With your question about like throughput and that, there are other tools out there like little too complex, but there's something called iometer, which is a tool that I've played with quite a bit to say load up some files on a server and then go to your laptop and run iometer, and you're just moving data back and forth. So you can see I might be connecting to Wi-Fi at a certain speed, but am I really moving data at that speed?
I'm installing it on my Surface right now. By the end of the show, and I think I remember because we talked about this before. And man, Windows is trying to keep me from installing this thing, because I'm doing a kind of an install outside of the store.
Yep.
And so
it is an outside the store app.
It is. Yeah. It's being a little cautious with me. So we'll see how this goes. What about a network monitor? If I wanted to kind of see what was going on across all of my network, is there something for me there?
So, this is a little for the more complex side of things, folks who are a little comfortable with more of the heavy lifting. PRTG, the Prassler folks, good German company, they have a product, and it focuses on network taps or points, measurement points. So obviously their business is bigger enterprise, but they offer a free package. You can download the full package, run it for free, and it lets you monitor 100 points. If you want to keep it long-term for free, you can monitor 100 devices. Where I first started playing with this was back in the home server days of, you'd have a Windows home server loaded up on a server, and there were tools on the server to tell you if you lost a drive in a RAID set or there was another problem with the server, but they didn't have good ways to communicate back. And PRTG was one of the first ones that gave you this ability to go into that server and set a trigger point on a drive failure. And we did so much with the HP servers back in the day. HP had a event application that would make the link basically between Windows and the RAID controllers and carry that information. So if the RAID controller saw a drive die, it would send it over to Windows. Windows would send it to PRTG, and you'd get an email saying, hey, you had a drive die in your home server. So, a lot of traditional things you can monitor from network bandwidth, depending on the networking products you have. It's one of those that if you haven't played with it, it's definitely something to download, pop it in a lab environment, play through it a little bit to see, what it looks like. Once again, as I pick on some of the German companies that I like their tools from, lots of documentation, lots of information, and seems to be working well.
Yeah. What's the free version? So you get the unlimited version for 30 days, and then it says after 30 Or it goes back to the free version? What's the limits on the free version?
Free version is just 100 monitoring
Oh.
points. Yeah.
Okay. And a monitoring point means I need to have the software on every single one of those, like a client or something.
It might be
Or
a
an
client
endpoint?
for certain things, or it's just what you've told it to go look
Okay.
at. So it could be a port on a switch, it could be a function in a switch,
Okay.
it could be
Okay.
something you're pulling from that. So could be a variety of things from that point of view. But yeah, they tend to um, work out quite well.
There you go. That's it. That was easy to get up and running. You can kind
Yep,
of see on the
there you
surface
go.
what's going on with what's the name of this one again?
WinFi.
WinFi. So you get
WinFi Lite is the free
yeah,
version.
yeah. So
And if you look,
a
if
lot of
you
things on there.
yeah, it's a ton of stuff. And if you go when you get time to play with it, go over to the right side. I think there's a dashboard view button. Take it to basic. That'll help you kind of understand. But if you look across the top, I think it probably shows you your signal strength. It'll show you RSSI, which is basically your receiving strength, and then it shows you probably signal to noise ratio as well. So gives you a lot of information about what's going on with every network that it can pick up.
Yeah. Yeah. Including the one it's on, plus what it's seeing. It picked up the Bitdefender piece on there. It's saying the vendor name, Bitdefender, SRL, and the band it's coming in on, the channel it's coming in on, signal quality. That's kind of cool.
Yep.
That's plus it just looks really cool. I think I'm just gonna leave this up. Like I'm just gonna, it's I put various monitors up behind me. I got the weather going on some and whatever. This looks freaking cool.
This has a certain level of cool factor. When you're on Zoom calls, you put that up over your shoulder. So
right, yeah. And be like, what are you? Well, I've got one PC I had over my shoulder for a while that was running. It was running the burst coin stuff, and so it was just constantly rolling through some things. And so it looked cool. Everybody's like, what is that?
No, it's neat stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and share a screen here again. If can you see the one I'm trying to share?
It's up. Yep.
So this is for the networking guys who like to play around with stuff. This is something Prassler just brought up from a freebie point of view. It's their toolbox. So where I stumbled into this one was, so I work for a company who's a systems integrator. We integrate computer systems for OEM customers, basically a lot of firewall security storage kind of guys. And occasionally they'll throw a system at us. We had one come in that was a custom built board that they wanted to convert into something else, and the software was very tightly tied to the hardware on the board, and we're having a little bit of trouble finding out whose network card it was. And I thought, well, somebody's got to have a Mac tool, because we knew what the MAC address was. And I stumbled into, hey, Prassler's Toolbox has a little tool here that allows you to go in, enter a MAC address for Ethernet, do lookup, and it will tell you who that MAC address is registered to. Some of the other things that, they've got a port check, so you can, inside your network, you can check for open ports, DNS lookup, the website check. Let's pick on oh yes, I agree with terms and conditions. So we'll pick on Dave. No, he wasn't able to resolve that one. Let's see.
You can do the average guy.tv if you want it.
So basically, it has some, the Chrome security function, the Mozilla, and Chrome's Lighthouse, and there's some more drill down on these, so you can do a little self-exploratory on your own security aspects, observations around things. So just some interesting information that can be gathered up. Once again, probably not something you'd use on a regular basis, but just something I stumbled across
Yeah.
with looking at some of the things that
No, I think
Prassler
three
does.
really good networking tools. Two I'm going to use right away
Yep.
in some testing, just some stuff. Tony had said in the chat room, "Yep, my network and a few other locals on channel 1."
Mm-hmm.
So a good opportunity to kind of see that and be like, oh, maybe I should. I think I have all my channels set to default. One of the things about the Bitdefender box, the phone app is way more powerful than the web interface. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
they
Yes.
spent most of their time developing the app as opposed to, and I'm kind of used to the web being the easiest, most functional, but the best app is the iPhone app, and
Yeah.
so pretty different.
I'm seeing more and more guys, more and more technology is shifting that way. I won't click on this one because it will give my local IP. But
Yeah.
if you ever get, if you're playing with your firewall stuff and you see you're getting pinged from IP addresses, IP geolocation will let you look up and it will tell you where that person is coming from.
Okay. Cool.
So
Cool.
kind of a neat deal there.
A tool that you and I have talked. I think every time we've done this, we've talked about this tool. And this was Bellark is one of those tools I used back in my commercial federal days. So I actually deployed. I was an admin at the time, sysadmin at the time, and I deployed a complete Bellark solution. Okay, so this would have been 2000. When did I leave them? I left commercial about 2005, 7. Yeah, 2005. So this may have been 2002, 2003 that I was with these guys. They've been around a long time. I don't know how much development they're doing right now, but man, if you want to know everything about your computer, this Bellark Advisor does it for sure.
And this is one where every time I go to use it, I instantly do well, they don't make that anymore, do they? And you go look it up
Right.
and there it is. And then, I'll do nobody's updating it anymore. And oh, look, runs on Windows 10, 2016, 8.1, so other than 2019, they haven't updated for that yet. But if you haven't run this, this is my mainstay for I'm going to back up a laptop hard drive for myself or a friend or family member. And I want to know everything that's on that drive before I make the change. This will tell you every program that's on that drive. It will tell you every license key it has access to. An odd use for this is it's got a fairly good network analyzer, or not analyzer, but documenter. It'll show you lots of stuff that is out on your network, which I find is kind of blows me away that it's able to do as much as it does. But yeah, Jim, you brought this one up first, and it's been a mainstay. I can't tell you the number of times that especially as we try things on computers and then don't use it, and then later you go, oh, hey, I didn't even remember that was still loaded on there, and I would like to save the license key from that. So it's a great inventory tool. Just phenomenal amount of information.
Well, just for keys. Like keys alone, stuff you've installed that you have keys for, I always lose those things. And so, like you said before, and this is one I wish I always like. I need to have a sticky that says "Run Bellark" before you reinstall, because you get frustrated. You're doing something, I'm just going to blow this thing away and start over. And as soon as you blow it away, you're like, oh, I should have run Bellark on that thing, and done. Gives you a little PDF inventory report that you can save off somewhere. I was looking for a version of mine from old. I've used this a dozen times at least, maybe more, maybe tens of times. And it is a great, like you said, it's a great report. So one I recommend. You've got Gary's Utilities on there as well. Is that one I haven't been a fan of some of these kinds of programs, but you like this one?
I like so GlarySoft was a Christian.
Glary, sorry, I think I said Gary, but Glary, yes.
It was a Christian recommendation, and a lot of people get really nervous around these because one of the main functions of these is registry editors, and you gotta have one you trust. CC Cleaner is a decent product in this realm, but Glary's one touch function on this. I think we all have worked with PCs enough that if something's bad out there, reinstalling the OS is probably the cleanest way to do that. But I have found, Glary, when you don't think you have time or you don't want to take the time and you just like to try and clean things up, I've had some really good results. I have never had this kill a PC or cause irreparable damage that needed to be dealt with. But the one touch on it, a couple passes with one touch seems to clean up a lot of issues with registry related items. And I've just had very good luck with it over the years. So, but I think that's one where I think people do get concerned about tool sets like that.
We have more than we're going to have time to talk about in here. I'm gonna jump because I have some experience with this. So I want to jump to Always Sync. I had put out in the community. It'd been so long since I had used a syncing piece of software, and was looking for something to sync between the Moro data box and my Drobo. I wanted to take what was on the Moro data because I wanted a local copy of it. Moro data only keeps about 750. It's a terabyte in there, but there's some caching and the stuff that goes on. So about 750 gig. Yeah. And so, but I wanted a complete copy of everything local. So I move it over to the Drobo. And I actually have Always Sync here. And I actually bought the pro version of it because there's some limitations on free. It's been, okay. I did mention this on a show in the past, though. I did change a drive letter that I had mapped, and then it thought that drive, of course, it lost. So when I put the new drive in, and it previously been named that drive letter, so it took over the drive letter on there, kicked the Drobo off, and took it over. Of course, Always Sync said, there's nothing there. So it started doing a full restore, right?
Yep.
Well, that's 2 gig or it's 2 terabytes. And so it went to, well, of course, it's not all on that box. So went to Backblaze and pulled down 2 terabytes from Backblaze. And then it did it 2 more times. So 3 times, 6 terabytes, 7 days, cost me about $100 and restored it from Backblaze. That was a very expensive mistake. I have since moved Always Sync from a remote computer to the computer that's in front of me because I want to know if this thing's doing it. I need to know it again. Not Always Sync's fault, my fault for sure, but one of those things. One of those things.
Yeah, and I think that's there's a lot of good sync packages out there. Once again, this is the one I tend to go to mainly because it works like it makes sense to me the way it works when you set things up. And I first used it when we had a situation where I had multiple people who we just wanted to grab files off their computers and make one big repository of them. And this was a quick, easy way to do that without, without having to worry about them overwriting files. And over the years, just some of the logic behind the way it, maintains copies and the way you can do sync in one direction or do sync in 2 directions. There's several different routes to look at with it, but yeah, with any of the sync packages, it kind of comes down to, does it do it the way it makes sense for you to do it? So
yeah. It's super powerful. These guys have been around a long time, and this is my actual, the actual instance of it. One of the that's on the screen. It does have a kind of a bandwidth limitation on the free side. So they let you do so much, and then they're kind of like, well, you got to wait 7 days or something like that to do that. Jim in chat says I should set protecting daily caps. Yes, I should, Jim. I should, and I don't think I have yet. I need to go back and do that just in case. What tipped me off to it was the kids said we were joking about something about how much bandwidth my daughter uses, and I said, "You want to see?" And I logged into the Cox app, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" At that point, I'd used 6.7 terabytes over the last week. And I'm like, "Gah,"
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So usually I get a notification from Cox when I'm gonna go past. I must have blown past that so fast that at this point they're like, well, I did find at least Cox in my area. There's $100 cap for them,
Okay.
so they charge you $10 per or yeah $10 per 50 gig. After that,
Hmm.
they cap it at 100. So you can really, I mean that's at least handy.
Yeah.
My initial thought was, oh, I started choking. I was thinking like $10 per 50 gig. I'm dead. I'm going to owe them like $10,000.
Yep.
So
Well, and it's once again, a COVID related thing with that is with Untangle, you get great data out of the firewall about what's going on. And I had thought, I did not think my work laptop would be the biggest user of data currently in our house. But then I look at it as I'm remote. We, as in my role, I'm linked up to. We use Dropbox. We use Dropbox for business. We use Google Docs, and we've also got some file share stuff, and it's all set up to sync. So it all is syncing between my laptop and corporate. And I keep looking at, I was blown away by the numbers of I am the word. My work laptop is the biggest load on our network, and my work laptop file shares are the biggest amount of data moving in and out of the house right now.
that makes sense, though.
It does, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought about it. I wouldn't have thought about it from that point of view.
Yeah, no, good that you know that, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just good to kind of know. I'd like some more reporting like that, just to kind of see the big problem with the Bitdefender box is it doesn't give that kind of granularity. It's so simple.
Yep.
You don't get that kind of regularity. I want to show Kevin before we head out. I want to show we did have a couple. This is the first time that I have been that I've shared show notes, and so just a couple comments. Here's a look at what we're looking at. Joe had jumped in Notepad as as a text editing, code writing standard, right? It's got some tools. Do you use that, Kevin?
I use it a bit, but several of our, once again, the company, I was surprised at the number of our customers that include that in their builds. We've got a couple of medical companies that is the Notepad package that ships with their system.
Right.
So it's very well done and a very good package.
We also have Visual Studio Code, which became available. Let me get back there. Visual Studio Code, which became available for free from Microsoft, and so that is there as well. Justin, thanks for that. MKV, there's a free ripping makemkv.com to get those. He included a free beta key in there, by the way, if you want to jump in there. That'll be in the show notes if you want to check that out. I don't rip. Do you rip DVDs anymore?
Not. I do not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Some do. No judgment if you do. I just don't. For the longest time, I was ripping DVDs and hand breaking them and doing all kinds of things for my Plex box, and then I lost all those somehow. And when my Drobo went bad, I lost them, and I didn't have them backed up. And I knew that. I knew if they're gone, they're gone. And so I didn't. After that, I was like, I just don't think I'm going to rip DVDs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I have a whole stack of them in the living room that are just sitting there. I wonder how long they'll be good for. They certainly won't. They won't last forever. MAP Maps 2 free scanned PDF tool at naps2.com. And then Justin adds in some free laptop scan and update utilities from them as well. We'll include all those in the show notes. They'll be available out there. Again, and now that I know what the show is, theaverageguy.tv/HGG455. If you're listening live and you want to continue to add to the list, I'll post these over the weekend. And so you can kind of continue to update your whatever you want to throw in there. We'll have a kind of a community list, much more than we talked about here.
Yeah.
And some other stuff as well. So thanks for doing that. Kevin, thanks for taking some time tonight. How you mentioned the job. How is the job? There was a time when you weren't in a job.
That's true.
How's the job going?
Job's going very well. Business has remained good. We've been very lucky. So the company's based out of San Jose. We're a system integrator, so manufacturing products for other folks, and our production team has been staying active. We've
Good.
had to
Good.
change how we try to. It's a little difficult building systems sometimes when you're trying to stay 6 feet away from the person you're working with. So we've gotten very good at looking at manufacturing efficiencies and how we limit the touch and interaction between people. But yeah, we've stayed good. Business is going well, and hopefully we'll be able to travel again sometime in the future.
Sometime. I'm kind of okay without it, to be honest, at the moment. I need to get out east and see John and Christian, and I need to head, I need to kind of get out that way. Ed Sullivan, go see Ed. So I may drive it.
Yeah.
It's a 2-dayer. We stayed in a hotel in Kansas City. I mean, in Denver when we went out there. No, Colorado Springs. And why I just had to name 3 cities to get there, I don't know why. But, I can head out. The hotels are super clean, like super clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so 2-day drive, and then I'd probably stay there for 3 days and then 2 days back, whatever, something like that. I don't, although I priced tickets out to the East Coast, Boston, $85 one way. I was like, what? So, I'm kind of torn, Kevin, because for $85, you kind of think that's a day's worth. Well, it's probably not in my Civic. It's probably, I could probably get there. No, that may be a day's worth of gas. It may be more expensive to drive than to fly at $85, right?
Well, and that's,
time.
The family here has been bringing up the question that we're all a bit concerned about the idea of going someplace, but wouldn't this be kind of a fun time to just hop in the plane and fly to someplace to enjoy it? So,
well, it's although not a bad way to get to the East Coast for me, and then I wouldn't have to worry about renting a car and some of those kinds of things that are with it. So, Sarah's got a trip in October, and that may be in my window. It's beautiful to be out on the East Coast.
Oh yeah,
I may take a week off and head down that way. Podcasting responsibilities lighten up in the fall, and so I may get a good opportunity to go out and see Christian. I haven't seen him in a while, so
we had I don't know. Many years ago. We went to Boston and then up to Maine in the fall season, and beautiful out. And in Maine, basically we were on a sailing schooner, so just imagine like a bed and breakfast on a boat, and wonderful. To this day, best lobster I ever had. Last day we were looping around the harbor. He dropped the sail on the ship, and we pulled up alongside a guy pulling up lobster traps, and literally the lobsters came out of the water into a pot downstairs, and you basically walked your live lobster down, and you came up with one with a little tub of butter, and best I ever had.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. The one drawback is 2 full days in the car, and then you're there for 3 or 4, and then it's 2 full days back, and you just lose that productivity time. Like I just lose when you fly. You work at the airport. You can work on the plane. You're right. You just don't lose. You kind of lose a day, a chunk of a day.
Yep.
But so that would be the one drawback. Jim Shoemaker says it need to be a real emergency to get him back at an airport on an airplane, and I don't disagree. Justin says no car when you get here though, so I can't make it to where he's at. Andrew is like the Amtrak for the win, and that I am a public transportation guy, and I guess, but is getting on a train any better than getting on a plane?
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, so from a COVID standpoint, I'd love to take the train out there from a travel standpoint. Just jump on the train, They have Wi-Fi, so you could work. You could continue to work. Brian does say first and only trip on Amtrak, loved it. No TSA, smooth ride, lots of legroom. That's all true. Like I took Amtrak from Portland to Seattle, 4 hours, and oh man, it is luxury. Like it is like you feel first class. Like, and you're in just a regular coach seat, and it feels for. I never sat next to anybody. Was that right English? Never sat. Yeah. And I never sat back next to anybody, and I had tons of space. It was great.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony's saying he went from Denver to Glenwood Springs on Amtrak. The rafters mooned us. Kids, close your eyes. The rafters. That's not the rafters. But
not the Raptors, but the Rafters.
Yes. Good call on that. So, and Andrew says, so few people ride the train that there's lots of room between you. Yeah, it'd be a long train ride to have a mask on right now, and I'm sure you'd have to. Don't you think on the train? Yeah.
Out in public kind of thing.
Sure, it'd be a full day, maybe 12. 24, 20 hours, something like that, from Omaha to Boston. I have to look into it. Andrew, you guys got me thinking. I'm not going to do it, but I'll look into it.
I'll check it out. And that's being where I am in the Twin Cities here. It's always been considered a really beautiful run from here to like Seattle. If you wanted to go that far, because you go through the plains and then you go into the mountains, and then I've been told it's really a beautiful route to go.
Justin, put some ether in the mask and pass the time away. This is maybe the best at the end of the show. Usually chat drops off at the end of the show. Everybody's like, whatever, I'm napping or whatever. And Andrew made sure we got the pronunciation, rafters.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Rafters.
So I will. One comment pops into my head. You mentioned 2016 through downsizing, I was laid off from the company I was with. Had been there for 20 plus years. 2018 was hired with the company I'm with right now. 2 years is a long time to be out of work. If anybody is out of work and you'd like to talk about it, just hit me up. I'm more than happy to. And to put it candidly, I'm 59 now, when you're in your late 50s, the best way for you to get a job is to talk to your friends, and it's networking. The position I ended up in, it was due to a gentleman I used to work with back in the 90s, who he and I, just kind of bumped into each other online, and he kind of did the you wouldn't consider coming to work for a smaller company and of course in the back of my mind I'm thinking I would do about anything right now just to have something to do. But he and I talked about what the role was, what they wanted to get it to be. I'd interviewed for hundreds. I'd sent out hundreds of resumes, hundreds of applications, and you get hit a ton with the overqualified. I hate the phrase overqualified, but there are, I saw examples where I would go into a company, interview for a position, and the conversation would gravitate to a different level. So don't be insulted by the overqualified statements. Use your network. Don't be shy about asking your network to think about you when they see positions open up. And another big key that I've found for us experienced workers is when you're talking to HR at a big company, let them know that you would be really good at mentoring their younger employees. And those kind of things seem to, and of course you have to be able to do that and wanting to do that. But just a commercial there for anybody who is struggling to find a position or needs to help in finding a position. can't say I can find you a job, but I'm always available to chat if you have questions about job searches.
Yeah, very applicable right now. It's a
Yes.
weird, it's a weird job market right now. I've never
Yes.
seen anything in the 30 years I've been doing this, and I've been doing a lot of recruiting. I've never seen anything like this. So it is just bizarro world out there. You gotta be persistent and lucky
Mhm.
and networked, like all those kinds of things to track that down. Andrew, I know Andrew's looking for a job right now and struggling to find one. So it is tough. And I just kind of worry sometimes about, Gallup's a great company. There's still moments you're kind of like, I hope, it's good as it is. You got to get through this. And who knows? We could be at the tip of the iceberg on the economy right now. So
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
just don't know. I mean, you can run it as well as it can be run. And if it's just not in the cards, it's not in the cards. So, we weathered '08 and '09 together. And a lot of the folks that are listening here, we've been hanging around each other for a while now. And
oh yeah,
so just make sure you're leveraging your networks, both for jobs and for just well-being.
absolutely.
I am grateful. There are many of you who are listening who I can ping at any point during the day. And Ed Sullivan, who has been on the show and is a good friend of mine now, we've kind of gotten to be better friends during this just by weekend cigars virtually, just out on the deck. He's on, we use Zoom. That's a great way to do that. I've got a couple of you that I just ping in a variety of ways, Twitter or whatever. So make sure you're staying in the loop. Couple reminders before we go. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Love to have you join the community in some way. If you're listening for the very first time, man, if you're listening for the first time, you made it this far. Woo, wow. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks. I should send you an award or something for that. I should have some kind. If you want to join us over on Patreon, if you like what you do and you're hanging around, you want to join us on Patreon, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon is how to get that done. Kevin, I'm getting closer and closer to a virtual meetup. Like it was hard to do physical, but now I'm kind of thinking, let's just do this thing virtually. We'll have theaverageguy.tv, whatever, meetup, and we'll get together on a Saturday, and I'll get some folks to present some things, and we'll do kind of what we did here. Yeah, we'll just do it in a virtual form. It'll be, maybe take 4, 5, 6 hours, a little lunch break, whatever. Maybe even a beer tasting in there.
Yeah.
How good would that be? So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start looking at some dates here for the fall, and just see if we can't get together, and maybe do a meetup that way. I may have a lot better chances of actually pulling one of those off. Yeah. So, Justin says maybe in an unconference format or something. Yeah, I might take, or just if you've got something, I'll put out a call for speakers and just say, what do you want to present on? And we'll take 4 or 5 of those. And you kind of miss the informal walking around and looking at people's stuff kind of thing. That's kind of the bummer, but, that would be I don't know. Well, yeah. Oh, you know what? And maybe we'll just throw it out there and get some ideas from folks on things that may or may not work. So we'll work on that as well. Yeah, we'll work on that as well. If you want to contact me, if you got some ideas for it, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. By the way, if you got this far and there's anything that maybe you didn't make it to the live show, but you're watching this on YouTube, jump down into the comments. And if you got things you want to add, like we didn't cover, but some things you want to add, just add them in the comments down on YouTube. And we'll get it kind of officially added to the set of things that are there as well. We want to thank Christian for his sponsorship of theaverageguy.tv. Of course, he keeps that thing running out at Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and trust. His plans still start at $10. Still, it's a pandemic deal. And so you want to head out there and get that. No inflation on those. They're doing pretty well. You can tack on email to that for $5 if you want to get it done. MapleGrovePartners.com. And again, big congratulations to Christian for getting married a couple weeks ago, and looking forward to going to see him when everything kind of settles down. We are live every Thursday. I'm just watching the tweets that Tony is doing live out on Twitter right now, and he just announced the meetup. Oh, Tony. We're live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at the averageguy.tv/live. If you're listening live, hang around for a little bit of the post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Kevin, thanks.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah, I love the idea about the virtual meetup. I think,
I think,
even if it just, frankly, even if you just start with one big Zoom call for a lot of folks to be able to say hi to each other, it's a good start. And, I think what pops into my head is you do it once just to make sure everybody's comfortable with how it works. And I know what happens to myself when I'm involved with stuff like that is I instantly go, oh, I should have done this. I should have had this. Hey, I could have showed everybody how to do this or looked at this. So, some of the things we talked about tonight, like the Tinkercad with coding and circuits and stuff, you could do some pretty cool stuff with that.
Yeah. Well, we could set up. There's a lot of things I could do to make this work. Setting up different. Mm-hmm. Even having a couple different breakouts going on, so you could, we could get different subjects going on what folks want to do. I do love kind of a kick it off with we call it Gallup. We call it a focus on you, which is just everybody introduces themselves, and maybe you spend an hour just talking about who you are, what you do, what gets you, what gets you pumped up about it, and and then. Chat room. So then have some breakouts and maybe I don't know, maybe there's I think there's I tell you what, I would love to do I would like to do like a beer tasting segment where anybody that wants to, if we can find something, where you go locally and get some stuff. And maybe share that kind of in the group with some flights. That'd be kind of fun just to see how that would work.
I just on the local news here the other night, a restaurant owner, I believe his wife is like the chef. He's more of the manager, but the wine connoisseur. He's been doing Zoom wine tastings. And basically what he's done is, here are some of the wines you enjoyed at the restaurant when we were open. And tonight I've got the person who made this wine, or I have this wine. So he's been doing these sessions with wine experts. He does notes beforehand to say, hey, go to your favorite liquor store and pick up this one. You can taste it and try it. And you can comment to the guy who actually made the wine about how, food combinations, different things. And I think those are nice because that's something you couldn't have done. You are not couldn't have, but we didn't do before the whole COVID thing. And now it's something that we're facilitating through that. So people really enjoy that kind of interaction. So yeah, the beer thing can be kind of a fun one. We should have did beer check before we started.
I didn't. I had a rum and coke. What did you have?
This is my Fulton's a local brewery, nice. And it seems like every brewery is doing these lagers now, golden lagers and that. So this one's a good one. It's Chill City Chugger. But what these really are is your favorite local brewery coming up with their version of Pabst.
Yeah.
It's hey, I got to come up with a good lager. Okay, here's one. Let's go.
I need to try Pabst. I've actually haven't had it in a long time. I need to. One I tried that I really liked was Hams.
So Hams, Schmidt is another one. So in the Great Northwest here, or Midwest, Pabst, Hams, and Schmidt are really interesting to try now because all of them went back to their original recipes.
Oh,
so yeah. Like Hams and Schmidt are much better beers than they were when I was young, because back then it was just how cheap can we make this crap and run through it. I think Schmidt was bought by somebody out of Chicago who in buying it, they got the old recipe and said, well, let's try the old recipe. And they're like, wow, this is
It's
great
actually good.
stuff.
This is actually pretty good. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
I was,
I grew up real close to the Leinenkugel brewery,
yeah.
and the Leinenkugels was a very different beer before Miller bought them,
Mm.
because Miller just came in and didn't change the recipe, but they changed the brewing process, and it was still a good beer, but it was different. And now they've kind of gone back to that original process, and it's a much better beer.
Yeah, of course they kill it in the Shandy area, right?
Yes.
They just crush it in that area. Yeah, Hams caught me off guard. We were doing a beer tasting, and that was the very first one, and I'm like, oh god. And I tasted it, I'm like, guys, this is actually pretty good. One of the things we could do too, we're talking about a grill. We could start the day with like Robson doing so. He would say, okay, I need you to get this kind of brisket and that kind of thing, right? So we could start the session. One of the sessions could be how to put this thing together. And so you could join Mark as he's talking about his process. We do it, and we all put the brisket on at the same time. Now it's going to finish at different times and stuff, but that's kind of an all-day process. So you could have that brisket going during the day, right? And you could kind of come back to it, at lunch. There could be a brisket break, and so you go out there, check your briskets. There could be some interesting things to do with mobile cams then at that point.
Yes. Yep. We, as I was kind of talking about the DVR thing we were doing, is with our production team, we bought a good, not just picking a PC camera and using it, but they bought a good conference call kind of camera that has a handle on it, and it has a headset to plug in it. So one of the production techs can be on the floor, and you can be talking in his ear over a Zoom call saying, hey, Tony, can you drill down a little further? Can we see how that went together? And can we look at these things? The stability control on it is much better than I thought it would be. Yeah. And the ability to kind of look in on these things is great. So aside from just sitting in front of the camera and doing a conference, there's some really neat things you can do with the mobile cam kind of idea as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be fun with that is to have, so everybody who jumps in on the brisket, smoke, then you would need to have a webcam, and we could bring all of those in and have a separate channel that during the day is everybody's smoke.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so you could just have like, I could do like a separate stream on YouTube. That's just the brisket cams that are, God, that'd be fun. Like, so again, super boring to watch it, but you could, that would be everybody's, that kind of stuff is kind of interesting. Yeah. Like then everybody goes out, so you need you'd have to set something up. So if you're going to do this, you don't have to, but for those that want to be on the brisket cam, we'll call it that, the brisket cam, you'd have a separate computer or phone, something set up that we could grab the stream of.
Right.
And
right.
Justin says all brisket all day. Yeah, no, it'd just be like, I think there's some things we can do differently that are similar to what we do in person, but we couldn't do a smoke. We couldn't do like a guided smoke of brisket or a guided smoke. Mark, are you still out there? I hope he's hearing this. We couldn't do a guided smoke of whatever, like, for folks that didn't want to take all day to do brisket, we could do chicken, or you could do whatever, right? But kind of do that guided.
And to me, so with all the irritating things around social media, one of the things I've stumbled into that I really like is I'm on the eastern side of the Twin Cities. We kind of refer to ourselves as the St. Paul east side of town. It's a east side foodies kind of thing. Amazingly positive, sometimes around reviewing food or different things, people can be a little mean, very positive, very reinforcing kind of group. And from my point of view, so I'm kind of a novice about the grilling and that kind of stuff. This year's been a great, I garden every year, and my two big things are heirloom tomatoes. I love really good tomatoes, and I love good cucumbers. And this year I've cracked the code on how to grow English cucumbers, the really long, skinny ones that have really good flavor. And I've found 3 different varieties of heirlooms that I've grown this year that have come in just a bumper crop of. My family's finally getting sick of BLT sandwiches, so we'll probably have to switch over to something else. But food can be such a fun thing to work on. And it wouldn't be a big segment, but just like you say with the camera, going out to my garden and showing, hey, I used to have problems with cucumbers, but I went to trellising them, getting them up in the air. You get them up in the air in a trellis, and now the English cucumbers grow that way. And so it's fun stuff because you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, no, right on. I think there's just some interesting things. Have you ever been to Surly?
Yes, I have been to Surly. Surly is a phenomenal brewery.
I think we can get Surly here.
Yeah, they've expanded their distribution. They have a wonderful restaurant there. They really beefed up the new facility, and a family that a woman that my wife worked with, her husband is the he's more than the warehouse manager, but he's the warehouse manager there. So when we have events, he usually brings things that don't get released by Surly. So he brings versions of Surly darkness that never get bottled, and they're wonderful, wonderful things.
Oh, Surly darkness! I like that. I like that. Yeah, we could do a brisket, start a brisket, and then by the evening, maybe it's, maybe it's done, and then so do a beer, so maybe find like 10 beers that are fairly national. Justin, I'm sorry, but maybe there'd be some beers in Australia that we also share here in the United States. I'd have to set up kind of like maybe a whole beer survey kind of deal where we're like, okay, what are some popular beers you have access to? And then try to find 10 that are common, not everywhere, but in a lot of places. And then you got more than Foster's, dude. Or I guess Jim said that. I thought Justin had said that. I guess they have Foster's. We probably have Foster's here, but anyways. Yes. So try and get 10 common beers. And then, do some, kind of go through it. That way, if you could get 7 or 6 out of 10, you could at least over the course of an hour, you could taste all these and have some, Justin says Foster's is for the tourists. So,
well, that's true.
Justin, we may have some trouble. Would you like the time zone's totally different? So for you, that would be staying up well into the evening for that. Would you do something like that to hang out at an all-day meetup if we did? Because most of my listeners are here in the U.S. We have quite a few in Australia, but most of them are here. If we did do something during the day, would you join parts of it? Be interesting to see. That's the one hard part about something like this is he says mostly if it's not a working day. Yeah, it would be a Saturday here. So you're because it's already Friday morning, right? It's Friday noon for you, something like that. Friday noon, lunchtime. Let's just say. Yeah, that's the hard part about doing these is you get, to get the international crowd in their time zone is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Maybe like we do a longer day with more breaks. But it would go well. Yeah, it's 1:00 there. We go well into the evening. So like it's a Saturday, so we're catching Australia on Sunday for the evening stuff. But you have both kind of morning, noon, and evening sets that aren't. So it's not like back to back to back to back, but maybe 2 hours of something and then a break and 2 hours of something. That way people can kind of pick and choose, and you can kind of modularize it. That's a word.
Yeah,
Budweiser.
That's interesting.
It is available everywhere. I'm not sure I want to drink it, but although lately I've been drinking a lot of Bud Light, and I gave Uyghur a hard time for that, and now I'm drinking it all the time. So,
A funny thing about some of the mainstream beers, you mentioned hams, and hams is defaulted back to a better recipe.
Yeah, it's good.
In my younger days, when me and the guys I went to high school with, we'd get together on a fishing trip. It was always cheap beer on fishing trip, so we'd buy Old Milwaukee, which was the big Wisconsin beer. And the funny thing is, Old Milwaukee in northern Wisconsin tastes okay because they sell so much of it. It's always fresh. So there is something about buying beer that is fresh and ready to go, and it's still not good beer, but it's fresh beer, so at least it has a fairly decent taste to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe my standards are just dropping. That's very possible too. That's very possible too. The best thing that ever happened to Budweiser was craft. It looked like craft beers was going to, and there was this rush, like, oh my God, craft beers brought the price of beer back up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so it's really, for most, my dad, probably your dad, looked, and you said this earlier, they looked for the absolute cheapest beer they could drink, right? Here, we'll drop $5 on a bottle, on a single, and you're like, if it's good, my kids, we bought some Dragon's Breath.
Dragon's Breath, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like $12 for a 4-pack. What the? Is there gold in there?
My cousin and I roomed together in college in western Wisconsin, and we both kind of had one of these moments a while back. We were talking about beer and something, and Bill, my cousin, says, "Hey, is this a fabricated memory, or did we used to get three cases of beer for $10?" And I said, I think the local liquor store did have some cheap, god awful, who knows where the hell it came from. But I said, I remember getting 3 cases of beer for $10.
So 12 in a case? Or
24.
Yikes.
These were cases of of returnable bottles, but they wouldn't take them back. They were bottles that had they were really all scuffed up. So I think part of the, and of course there wasn't much for recycling back then. So part of the deal on getting the beer so cheap was getting those bottles out of circulation.
Got it.
So it to me, it was kind of, hey, you guys go get rid of these bottles and have some beer with it.
Can you take them? And you're going to pay for them, but there's going to be beer in them.
There's going to be beer.
Yeah. Well, hey, if it's halfway decent, I think when I first started drinking beer, not again, but when I first started drinking beer, I kind of needed craft. I needed fruity craft beers to kind of ease me in. Now, not so picky.
Oh yeah.
We had some Bud Light, just some regular Bud Light on tap. It was actually pretty good. I was like,
oh yeah,
why have I been bad mouthing this? I mean, it's not great and it tastes like water, but for a party, you're kind of like, okay, it was, it was on tap.
To me, the key with beer is freshness. Yeah. If it's fresh, if you walk into a bar and there's taps, I usually ask, what do you serve a lot of?
Yeah.
And that's usually your safest bet.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I got to start working on a meetup. I think it's gonna happen. I'll try to. We'll do a small one to start. Maybe a half day. Just see what we get.
It'd be good to try something out, see how it works before you go whole hog with it.
Yeah. And with a more virtual setup, there's more I can do them a little bit more often. Man, Jim, that's a good list of beers. Hold on. I gotta wait for these to hit the API on the chat. We'll give it a second here before we go. But Sam Adams, man, their Sam Adams porch rocker. It's very limited. I'm having a hard time finding it. Super delicious by far. And I'm kind of a big Sam Adams Oktoberfest fan.
Yeah.
Best beer I've had from Sam Adams. Porch rocker. Really, really good. I don't know how to pronounce that second one. Yuling? Yuling. Oldest brewery in the United States. Yuling. And then Sierra Nevada, Schlafly. Is that his? Schlafly?
Could be. Yep.
Okay. Samuel Smith, I don't know. Odell, I know it. Odell. North Coast Brewing. Founders is great. That's up in your neck of the woods, right? Isn't Founders up there? Guinness, you got to get from Ireland or from Ireland.
Yep.
Man, I need to learn how to pronounce some of these. Duchess? Is it Deutsches or Duchess? Deschutes? Okay. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
I butchered mate earlier in the show, so
good stuff. I'm a big Blue Moon fan, and they've got a light, Blue Sky.
Yeah,
I think that's what it's called, Blue Sky. Pretty good little tangerine kind of, and man, you can really taste the tangerine. I don't know what they're doing there, but it is pretty darn good. All right, well, guys, if you're listening live, Kevin, hang tight for me 1 second. Sure. If you're listening live, thanks for coming out. I was feeling pretty rough before the show started, and you guys filled my tank. So I appreciate you guys out there.
Good.
Great job in the chat room tonight, and appreciate all the feedback. Like I said, normally it's quiet by now, but they stayed active. Maybe it's you, Kevin. Maybe it's you. So we'll see you guys next Thursday. I wonder what are we doing next Thursday? Let me look here. Do I have that up? Yeah, right here. Ryan is back. Ryan Kirshner is back. Ryan and Bob are back next week. And then McCabe on the fall and winter lawn kind of will wrap our 3-part series on lawn care. Mine looks freaking great. Not gonna lie, it looks freaking great. I went 9 days without without mowing it with the vacation, and I forgot. I had to mow it twice yesterday. We'll see you guys next week. Take care. Kevin, hang tight.